Today, I'm going to go back to the time my twins were toddlers, and I'm going to share with you 7 parenting struggles that I had when my twins were toddlers, which, by the way, are very common toddler parenting struggles, and how I overcame them. Today, we're going to cover tantrums, picky eating, aggressive behaviors, sleep issues, social skills, sharing, dealing with change. If you've been dealing with one of these things and you have a toddler or toddlers, this is the podcast episode for you. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode here in the Parenting with Understanding podcast. Today, I'm going to share with you 7 struggles that I had when my twins were toddlers. They're going to be 8. Oh my gosh, where did time go? You know that saying, I think I heard Kim Kardashian, the one who said, the days are long, the years are short. I remember when I was a toddler parent, the days were so long because they were not going to school. I didn't have a break. I remember I was at home all day. My husband works for 10 hours. So for 10 hours straight, I was stopping toddlers. I was trying to keep them alive. That's pretty much what I felt when they were toddlers, that I was just trying to keep them alive all day, from getting banged against corners, from killing each other, from swallowing something they shouldn't. Yes, so I've been there, I've done that. So let's start with the topic of tantrums. Tantrums are developmentally appropriate for toddlers, yet they're so challenging for us parents. Especially there were little seasons or little cluster of days or weeks that it seemed like my twins were tantruming every 15 minutes. Are you there? So from my experience, those were a phase, meaning that those cluster of days or weeks that they were tantruming a lot, those were phase, and it went around developmental things such as sleep regressions or teething or potty training, things like that, or environmental things such as when they changed preschools. I remember, or when my foster son left the house, that was a big transition for my twins as well, going from seeing my foster son all the time to not seeing him anymore. He became an adult and he left the house. So it was those Leo seasons, environmental, developmental things that made tantrums a lot more intense and more frequent. So if you are in those pockets of times that it seemed like my toddler is tantruming all day, every 15 minutes there is a tantrum, I don't know if there is a light at the end of the tunnel. From my experience, I can tell you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I encourage you to explore deeper things. Developmentally, where they're at. Are they going through potty training, through sleep regression, through teething? Where they are at developmentally. Are they dealing with a developmental delay or any other thing that might be causing a lot of stress for them? I know that children with speech delays, they are more prone to more intense and more frequent tantrums because they struggle to communicate. So they do it through tantrums. So there are deeper things that, by the way, in coaching, in HIC parenting, that's exactly what will help our parents of toddlers to unveil. We look and dig beneath all those behaviors that the parents explain to us, and we help those parents see what those root needs are and address them from the root in a way that it creates change because the child feels that their needs are met, that they're more comfortable. The parent feels more empowered and with the tools to help the child because they understand where things are coming from. And I have an invitation for you. If you want personalized guidance, if you want a parenting professional to dive deeper and help you unveil, assess your parenting, unveil what's really going on in your parenting, especially if you have toddlers, then We have a free parenting assessment call. It's either with me or one of our HIC parenting advisors. This is not a consultation or a coaching session. This is just a space for us to assess your parenting, see where their needs are, see where the sticky points are, and bring them up to the surface so you are able to have more clarity about what's going on between you and your children. If you want to take advantage of this opportunity, all you have to do is go to apply.hicparenting.com, apply.hicparenting.com, or you can open the description of this podcast episode and then the link is there. This link will take you to our calendar where you get to book your free parenting assessment call. At the end of the call, after you do get your assessment, if you want our continuous personalized guidance through our coaching services, we will tell you how it works, the pricing, and everything else. And you will decide if you are going to enroll yes or no in HIC parenting education. So I want to bring you the story of Amanda. She was one of our clients in HIC parenting, and she was pregnant at the time that she came to us. She had a 3-year-old, she was newly 3. And Amanda was dealing with a lot of bedtime stalling, bedtime tantrums, bedtime struggles. She did not know how to address them in a way that were solved before she had her second baby. The time was ticking. She was very pregnant and she needed personalized, tailored solutions that she could see immediate results. So she came to HIC parenting. We helped her unveil the needs. And what happened was that her daughter was living separation anxiety at bedtime. Because Amanda was already nesting, she was already preparing for the second baby. The toddler, the daughter, was seeing how they were getting ready for baby brother. Maybe she saw the Leo bassinet, the Leo crib in the parents' bedroom, and this filled her with anxiety of what about me? What about my sleep needs? Am I not gonna have mommy special time at bedtime anymore? All those things were creeping up in her head and in her heart, and were making bedtimes a lot harder for her, for the mom, for the dad. So what we did is that we set her up with a plan to start tackling not the bedtime stalling or the tantrum, but the need beneath it, which it was the separation anxiety. And then they started talking a lot. We prepared Amanda on how to talk to her daughter in a way that she is able to grasp and understand. So she was able to see and understand that the arrival of her baby brother didn't mean the disconnection and separation and abandonment, emotional abandonment from the parents. She was able to see that the bassinet, the Leo crib in daddy and mommy's bedroom didn't mean that she wasn't going to have special time. She was able to still get special mommy time at night and feel comfortable seeing her leave the bedroom because she was already aware that that did not mean she could not access her. Once Amanda addressed the root need, then her bedtime struggles went away. They improved so much. And the baby arrived and everything was in place for her to be busy with the baby at night. I want to share with you her story.
And myself, I was feeling highly frustrated. Bedtime process is just really going on a very long time. And I was very pregnant and very tired at the end of the day. And we're using social media, we're reading parenting blogs. But I feel like the thing that's different about a parenting coach like you, Marcela, is that we're able to get direct feedback from you. I would say to anyone who is wanting to try parenting coaching, I say go for it, because one of the biggest takeaways, being able to grow as a person. And I was able to look back and say, okay, I'm going to change that pattern and I'm going to do it a different way.
Okay, so we already talked about tantrums, that is the communication of an underlying need, that they could be driven by developmental things or environmental things, that address the need, address the developmental or environmental thing that is making them uncomfortable. And that will take care a lot of the tantrums, especially those clustered time tantrums where they tantrum after tantrum after tantrum. Not so much they tantrum once in a while, because that's a toddler. They will tantrum once in a while when you tell them no at the store, when you tell them they cannot take their iPad in the car. They will tantrum. That's completely expected, normal, appropriate. I'm talking about this cluster of times where they tantrum a lot for a whole week or 2 weeks. This is how we solve it. Okay, so let's move on to picky eating. And for this one, I had, out of all the toddler struggles that I lived with my twins, for me, that was the hardest one with one of them. If you are new to us, we are on the spectrum in this family. We are a neurodivergent family, and sensory needs are a big thing for me and for one of my sons. And so much that he was losing weight. He was extra picky. My other son, his twin, he was a picky eater, but he was a picky eater in terms of I would show him a food item 10 times, and maybe at the 11th time, he's going to try a little bit. That's expected picky eater type of situation. But in my son's case, it was concerning because he was losing weight. He was not gaining weight. He was supposed to be growing, gaining weight. So his pediatrician referred him to feeding therapy. And that's when things started to unveil. We learned that it wasn't just about the food. It was that his mouth didn't have the correct, I would say, anatomy for him feeling safe chewing and swallowing food. The roof of his mouth was really high up, and basically a spoonful was getting lost in his mouth. That gave him anxiety of choking up, and that's what made him reject food altogether. Or I remember when he used to eat something, I remember it used to be a little tiny bite at the time that took so long for me to be done with his dinner, with his lunch, and it sat me back for other things. My older son was already playing, he was already in the backyard. I was supposed to be done with the mealtime routine, and I was still with my son trying to get him to finish his food. Not because he wasn't hungry, he was hungry, but he was just eating a little itty bitty piece at a time. So when we took him to feeding therapy, I learned a few things that I know it will help you if you have a picky eater who, like my older son, who is not concerning picky, but they're still picky. And the first thing that I learned was that it's okay to let him play with food. I know that if you come from a culture where playing with food is seen as disrespectful, almost sinful, this might be a thing for you to process or to allow. But one thing that I learned from the feeding therapist is that the food experience doesn't start when they put things in their mouth. It starts when they see it, when they smell it, when they touch it. If you see really, really young toddlers, that's what they do. Even babies, that's what they do. They start playing with the food, with the mouth, smell it, even put it all over their face, and eventually it's going to go in their mouth. So allow that exploration. That actually will help you get them to eat different things a lot easier than if you just try to put it in their mouth, because it feels less threatening, less invasive to start with other senses rather than just go right into putting the food in their mouth. So I started doing that because I saw they were doing that in feeding therapy. Basically, it was playing with food the whole time, and that really helped. I remember even one time the therapist, she took food coloring, and then she took cream cheese, and then she started telling him a story of them being at the beach, playing in the sea with the waves. And then they were mixing the cream cheese with the food coloring. And I remember they put some sprinkles or something in it to make it more fun. And that was the very first time my very, very picky eater ate cream cheese. That was the very first time. And after that, at home, he kept eating cream cheese, even the normal one, even the white one, because the experience was positive. The positive taste followed. So how can you make food enjoyable, like fun for your little kids? A lot of parents use food as a reward, and instead of the food itself, the experience with food being the rewarding thing for them. Just the fact that I'm here at the table with all these beautiful colors of food that I have. I see broccoli, I see watermelon, I see rice. I don't know. This combination doesn't sound that great to me, but you know what I'm trying to say. They get to see the food, the colors, the textures, the experience is what the rewarding thing is for them. Because if we make it as the candy is the reward, the sweet is the reward, then we're going to start teaching them that the value is on the candy, on the sweet, and not on the healthy food that they have in front of them. Number three, toilet training. Toilet training was it was challenging in the way, not because we were neurodivergent, but it was mostly because I had twins. So I had to potty train them at the same time. They were both ready at the same time. One of them progressed a lot faster than the other. So that's one thing that I have to say. Regardless if you have twins or not, if you have more than one kid and you find yourself comparing the toilet training or the potty training process of your current toddler to the older one or to older ones, that's not fair to them, because potty training is a developmental transition, and children live their developmental transitions differently and at different rates at different times. So while one of my twins, matter of fact, the neurotypical one, took a long time to be potty trained, my neuroautistic, neurodivergent child, he was so fast at being potty trained. Like in 3 days, he was potty trained at day and at night. So the comparison is not that you're doing something wrong with the second one. They just have different rates that they do things. They do things at different speed. Now, because I was potty training them at the same time, it was busy. That's the struggle that I lived. It was busy. I just had to be on my toes all day, because if I was cleaning up an accident here while I was cleaning up an accident here, then another accident was happening at the same time in the other room. I remember, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to say this story, but yes, I think at this point, I find it funny. I was in the bathroom when one of my twins, he came in and he had brown all over his face. I knew it wasn't chocolate. I knew it was, And I was like, oh, let me change you, baby. I cleaned his face. And when I took the diaper off, I noticed he was clean. It was not him. It was my other one. Oh my gosh. The first thing that I was thinking, it was like, if the clean one is like this, I can't imagine how the other one is going to be. I was so scared to go to the living room because I knew I was going to find the other one in I don't know what. When I went out there, yes, he was worse. And not just him, the couch. Everything was a mess. And my couch that I had at the time was fabric. So how do I get this off this fabric? It was, yeah, pretty nuts. So that was the struggle, that it was busy, but it was kind of like a little sprint. It almost seemed to me like, this is crazy. This is even worse from when they were newborns, eating every 2 hours. Like, I feel like every 5 minutes I have to be on you. So obviously I couldn't do anything else. My husband, I remember he came home finding dirty dishes, dirty house. So it does the time and the time of the life that you're at. And then you see that, okay, I'm failing, I'm behind. You're not failing or behind. It's just busy. And that's why your dishes are not done. That's why your bed is not made. That's why you have not brushed your teeth. Give yourself a lot of grace. You're doing a really hard job. Potty training is no joke. So it's okay if you leave all the dishes piled up until bedtime and then you take care of it after they go to bed. It's okay. It's survival. Yes. And that's how I felt it. Okay, sleep issues. If one of my twins, if the neurotypical one was having a hard time potty training. The older one was having a hard time with sleep, meaning that he was co-sleeping. I was okay for a while, but I'm autistic as well. I need space. I don't like somebody pushing my arm or touching me. I don't like to be touched when I'm trying to fall asleep. And my son either, because he has his needs as well. So it was getting crowded because he was getting bigger and he was moving more. So I decided to transition him to his own bed. The good thing was that his twin was already used to sleeping in his own bed. So it was kind of like an encouragement, like a goal, hashtag goals for him to do the same thing that brother was doing. So we took it that way. So if you're able to relate that transition, if you are looking to transition your toddler to sleep on own bed to something that they're excited about, that they feel they will be accomplished, for me, that worked. So I remember telling him, hey, you're going to be with your brother. We will be doing story time together. I started hyping him up a lot before I actually did the transition. And then I just endured tears. Yes, it wasn't smooth. He was tantruming, trying to go in my bedroom, but I knew that if I stay consistent, yet warm, I didn't remove my presence. I didn't let him cry it out. I just kept taking him back to his bed every time he woke up. And he got used to it in a matter of 3 weeks. For your child, might be less, might be more. Children respond different, you know? And that's something that I learned having twins. They were born the same day, they look alike, but they respond different to different things. Okay. Number 5, aggressive behaviors. Hitting, kicking, biting, throwing. Yes, yes, yes to all that. I saw all that. And if you are going through that, number 1, you're not doing anything wrong. It's developmental. It's expected. Number 2, you're not raising a bully. You're not raising a man who's going to hit his wife because he hits you. You're not raising a spoiled brat. Toddlers just have a lot of emotions and limited language skills, and that leads to aggressive behaviors. So it's not a matter of disciplining them for it. I'm going to change my wording. We do discipline them. It's not a matter of consequencing them. That's better for it, but disciplining them in a way that they're able to see how to express their needs and emotions differently. For example, in my case, yes, the biting, the hitting, the kicking, the throwing, all those stuff, before I even saw it, I remember going to my twins, okay, we're going to enter at the store. We are going to get what's on the list and not anything else. If there is something that you cannot have and then you want to cry, like, what can we do instead of hitting or kicking? Maybe you can do some jumping jacks, or maybe we can take a few deep breaths. Let's practice. Okay. So it's a matter of training them on what to do instead to express all those big emotions. Did they always follow the instruction? No. So that's one thing I have to say with toddlers. It's not about expecting the right away result. It's about you keep training them in the skill, in the appropriate behavior, in the appropriate things to say, in the appropriate things to do when they have big emotions. And you will see the fruit of your hard labor later. And I say it because I'm already seeing it with my twins who are 8 years old. And the teacher says that they have more social emotional skills than any other kid that he's had in his classroom. Number 6, sharing and social skills. So it's a development fact that children 3 and under cannot share because they do parallel play. They play alongside others, but they don't build play with others. So that's one thing that I want you to consider. It isn't that we are not going to teach children to be kind with each other, to ask for things nicely, to wait for our turn, to like, we still teach those skills, but developmentally, you're going to see the fruit a lot later because they're not ready to understand the dynamics of cooperation yet. We still do it to sow for later. For now is really, I remember the supervision was there all the time, there, so they were safe. Remember in the beginning of this episode, I said that for me personally, toddlerhood felt like I was just trying to keep them alive, trying to keep them from killing each other, from killing themselves, basically that, yeah, because whatever you tell them, it's sinking in for later because developmentally they can give it back to you quite yet. And number 7, dealing with changes, transitions. Oh my gosh. Children in general, especially toddlers, because toddlers are changing physically and their brain is changing so rapidly, they crave consistency in their life so they can keep up with the developmental changes. Give me consistency in my routine. Give me consistency in my bedtime. Give me consistency in the emotional responses that you give me when I'm crying, when I'm aggressive. Give me consistency, please. So when it comes to change, if we are able to create an environment of consistent around their own change, that helps a lot. So, for example, when my son was having the transition from sleeping with me to sleeping in toddler bed, the consistency there was that he could go to me and access me as same as he was able to access me before. The difference there was my response. Instead of like, okay, come here, let's sleep in my bed, I always walked him back to his bedroom. Sometimes he was not that happy about it, but he felt safe because he understood that that was my consistent, warm response. If my behaviors would have been all over the place, inconsistent, that the first wake up, I walked him back to his bedroom. The second wake up, let's just say I was yelling at him. The third wake up, okay, be in my bed. All that inconsistency is what makes transitions a lot longer, a lot harder, more tears, more struggle. So create consistency around the developmental changes of your children. That's a big thing. So let me number the 7 struggles that I personally live with my toddlers: tantrums, picky eating, potty training, sleep issues, aggressive behaviors, sharing and social skills, and dealing with change. So if you resonate with one or more or all of them, I want to tell you that you're not alone. You're not a bad parent. It's expected. I lived it. And many, like every person who has a toddler, if you've met parents saying like, hey, my children never did any of those things, they're either lying or they're so punitive that their children shut down. So don't listen to them. Listen to your instinct, listen to your gut, and do what your heart tells you to do at that moment. If my story helped you, if this podcast episode helped you, I encourage you to leave us a positive review. Just open the description and let us know how this podcast episode helped you raise happy toddlers and being happy raising toddlers. Or if the Parenting with Understanding podcast as a whole has helped you, let us know as well. Remember to book your free parenting assessment call with me or one of our HIC parenting advisors. Go to apply.hicparenting.com. And it only takes understanding of yourself and of your children to transform your parenting. I'll see you next time.